let's actually give some value to the audience, right? So my biggest beef with let's give some asset protection value. Is that okay?
Yeah, fair enough.
So my biggest beef with insurance, threefold. Number one, you're not insured, or you're underinsured, right? So you're like, hey, I think I'm paying my premiums. I think I'm done, and then the shit hits the fan, and you find out that the company doesn't have the money. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, people are underinsured. Like, oh, I got $1 million policy, $2 million policy, they get sued or whatever.
Welcome to the Bar Down Investing Show. Here are your hosts, Kyle Wilson and Jay Scott.
Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Bar Down Investing Show. I am Kyle, also known as Ashley Wilson's husband, and once again, I'm joined by my good buddy here, Mr. Jay Scott. How's it going, Jay?
Everything is going well. Nice to be back here. It feels like we haven't done this in like weeks.
Because we haven't. It's been a couple of weeks. We took a little bit of a hiatus there for the holidays. Pre-recorded a couple things. I had to do a recording whilst in Canada, but now we're back. Yeah, I was almost struggling with that intro. I didn't even remember what to say.
Well, we have a really good show today. We're back doing another drunk real estate episode, and we have gotten some amazing feedback on these drunk real estate topics. Who would have thought people like watching drunk people talk about real estate?
Yeah, it's getting a little bit better feedback than just two guys sober talking about the economy and where things are headed and interest rates and stuff like that. So who would think that would be more interesting?
Yeah. Well, today we have two amazing real estate investors or real estate people. Only one of them is an investor, I guess, joining us on Drunk Real Estate. So we recorded this back a couple months ago at the Bigger Pockets conference. So it's a few months old, but nothing here is timely or out of date. Like, this is all really good discussion points. So first with us, we have Mauricio Rauld, who is the founder of Premier Law Group. He is our syndication attorney, our securities attorney, and he is just a wealth of knowledge, everything that deals with anything. I mean, in this discussion, we talk about everything from insurance to tokenization and blockchain and the future of real estate as it relates to blockchain. And then in addition, we have Matt Faircloth. And so I know a lot of you know who Matt is. Matt is the founder and CEO of the DeRosa Group. He's a multifamily syndicator. He's actually one of the reasons why you and I are doing this show right now. I met Ashley a couple years ago through Matt. I guess we met separately, but we got brought back together via Matt and then jumped into this partnership. So Matt deserves a lot of credit for us even being here today, but Matt's just another extraordinarily intelligent investor with a lot of great insight. And so this episode is just awesome. What'd you think?
We had a lot of fun with it. Fun fact, this was actually our first ever recording of Drunk Real Estate. So it was a little bit rough around the edges as we were feeling things out, but it really helped that Matt and Mauricio are such podcast pros. They're presenters by nature. And there was even a point there where we got really into the weeds with insurance. And I think we were underutilizing Mauricio's talent. So Mauricio chose right in the middle to be like, hey, can we pivot and talk about something else? And I'm glad he did, because he has so much knowledge about tokenization and things like that. So we had a great discussion. But there's also a little tidbit right in the middle, if people are paying attention, that we might have a lead on a new presidential candidate. So keep an eye for that one.
I forgot about that. Yes. Oh, I completely forgot about that. Yes. Somebody makes a big announcement in the in this discussion. So make sure you watch to that point at least.
Yeah, great. So yeah, we won't take up any more time. We'll get right into it. Enjoy another episode of Drunk Real Estate. Well, welcome everyone to our first inaugural episode of Drunk Real Estate. Jay didn't want me to call it Drunk Real Estate. He didn't think it would be a good look.
So what happens if this thing sucks and we want to make this like episode 7 and kind of hide it?
Okay, well we could do that over. Welcome to Drunk Real Estate. This isn't the first episode. It's
our first. It's the first inaugural as opposed to the second inaugural.
As you can tell, these guys have been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah, so
right.
The idea behind here is we're going to have a couple drinks and we're going to discuss some stuff surrounding real estate. And so we brought on some very special guests. We have Mauricio Rauld. What are you drinking today?
I am drinking a Chardonnay.
Chardonnay.
A very over oaked, sweet, buttery Chardonnay.
And we have Matt Faircloth. What are you drinking?
What's up, man? I got a Buffalo Trace with an enormous, like, Rubik's Cube sized ice cube in there. So grateful for that.
And last, and most likely least, we have Jay Scott. What are you drinking?
Yeah, I'm a red wine guy. I got an Oberon Cab from Napa Valley, and if you like the fruity, the sweet cabs, this is a good $20 bottle.
If you like candy, fruit bombs, that's it right
basically.
there.
Says the guy drinking the white wine.
Sophisticated, just like Jay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. So Jay Scott, we have a resident hurricane denier, I like to call him. He just came right out of Florida. Survived Hurricane Ian. Right before, he was trying to tell us how much Florida did not get hit with hurricanes. Sarasota was never going to get hit with hurricanes. We should move down there. And then he jinxed himself. And one day before, I was on the phone with Jay, and less than 24 hours away, he's like, I'm not going to put on these hurricane shutters. And we were like, what are you doing, man? If you're not going to put on the hurricane shutters for the hurricane, when are you going to do it?
Literally, we were not going to put the hurricane shutters on, and talking to Kyle, he laughed at me, and it just felt like a challenge. And at that point, I was like, fuck, I guess I have to.
Those 2 hours of your life, though, I'm sure you were happy after you did it.
Did you put them on yourself, or did you get a guy?
My two kids and I, and even Carol helped. We put them on, and literally, if Kyle had not made fun of us for not putting the hurricane shutters on, because we've never gone through this.
I could have saved your life. You're welcome.
You likely saved my life.
So that's how we know to make Jay Scott do something, is we tease him and make him feel a little guilty about it, right?
That's what my wife does.
There you
That's
go.
how I keep him out of jail.
Well done.
So do you think you never thought that hurricanes were going to come hit Sarasota? Do you think this is a new trend that hurricanes are just happening more often? Is it?
So when we moved to Sarasota 3 years ago, we were told hurricanes never hit this place. Last hurricane that hit Sarasota was 1934, I think. And there are all these theories that like the winds move a certain way or just something weird why we never get hit by hurricanes. And I was convinced. I mean, we were told like we were in the direct eye of the storm 24 hours before. I would have sworn, I would have bet lots of money there's no way we're getting hit by a hurricane. And we got hit by a hurricane. So.
And by the way, we're taping this in San Diego, and we never have hurricanes down in Southern California. But sure enough, a couple months ago, it wasn't a hurricane; it was a tropical storm. But still, it hadn't been since like 1971. That's because it just doesn't happen on the Pacific side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, screw this! I'm moving to Florida if I got to deal with hurricanes now.
So so in your opinion, is this something that this is a trend? These guys are, we're just going to get more and more natural disasters, and we're going to have to just deal with it, pay more insurance.
Well, I'll tell you, as real estate investors, it certainly makes me rethink where I'm buying my real estate.
Would you buy in a hurricane in an area that's prone to hurricanes, right? I mean, I know you guys are in Houston. Houston has gotten hurricanes before. Would you buy more in hurricane areas, or do you intentionally avoid that altogether?
Well, here's the thing. It's not so much the risk to the structure of a storm that we're concerned about. We're concerned that if an area gets hit multiple times, you're not going to be able to get insurance. And that's a catastrophic risk. I mean, we can rebuild an apartment complex or a house that gets hit by a hurricane. But the day the insurance companies say we're no longer insuring this property, it's basically a total loss. Nobody's going to buy it.
Is it realistic to say that insurance companies will redline a part of the United States to say this area is just not going to get insurance anymore?
You're seeing it. California, it happened with the wildfires, right? Like they just, the wildfires came in, and then the insurance companies said we're just no longer going to insure them. So
for no number, like it's not
they just wouldn't do it. And
FEMA came in behind them? Did FEMA insure it behind there, Mauricio?
Not as far as I know.
I don't know.
I just live here and I'm a lawyer. What are you talking about?
Over here?
Yeah, right.
I know.
You're the California resident.
No, but that's definitely one of the catastrophic risks. The other one, which has definitely happened as well, is that you get hit and the insurance company doesn't have enough money. Like it literally, you're underinsured. Like you think you're covered, you're paying your premiums, and then there's the bankruptcy.
I own a bunch of single family rentals south of where I live, where the storm hit really hard. And we use an insurance company that literally 2 months ago, I got a notice saying, we don't insure in Florida anymore. If you're currently insured with us, you're grandfathered for some period of time. And I stopped reading. I'm like, okay, big deal. At some point, I'll think about this. And yesterday I had to think about it. Like, is this insurance company going to be able to pay out
quite a bit?
Let's actually give some value to the audience, right? So my biggest beef with insurance, let's give some asset protection value. Is that okay?
Yeah, fair enough.
So my biggest beef with insurance, threefold. Number one, you're not insured, like, or you're underinsured, right? So you're like, hey, I think I'm paying my premiums. I think I'm done, and then the shit hits the fan, and you find out that the company doesn't have the money. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, people are underinsured. Like, oh, I got $1 million policy, $2 million policy, they get sued or whatever. And then I forgot what the third one was.
Something like that. Has the first one ever happened where on a large scale, where an insurance company was bound to cover something and then bankrupted themselves, walked away?
It happens all the time.
Didn't step in.
It happens all the time. The other one I forgot was like, people don't spend the time to read insurance policies because it's who wants to go spend the time? So what you really want to do is you want to hire there's something called an insurance counsel, who actually can review your policy and tell you where the holes are. Because what happens with insurance policies is they'll exclude something, but then and then they'll put it back in and then they'll take it out again. Like, it's really complicated to read an insurance policy. So people think they're insured for something, and then it's like, oh no, this is this. You're not insured for example, in your world, it's the storm surge is really what caused a lot of the trouble. So it's like, oh no, we cover hurricanes,
but not
we don't cover a storm surge if it's water damage. So that's a separate insurance. So you just need to have somebody looking at it that actually knows what they're doing.
So are these things that we should just completely negate certain areas entirely, or just be more diligent about?
Just stick to California. Just invest in California. You'll be fine.
Well, that's a good question about, like, regardless if it really does have to do if you believe global warming is real, if you believe that we're going to be having more hurricanes, which I do. Is that are there parts of America that maybe we should rethink where people live again? I mean, I'm maybe fast forwarding another 20, 30 years from now, but like, should we start rethinking the way America is populated?
And therefore where we should be investing,
out there. What's that?
And therefore where we should be investing,
right?
Where people are going to end up.
There's two different questions, right? So us as real estate investors, yes, should we invest in
New Orleans?
I don't know. Yeah, New Orleans. Thank you. New Orleans. It's a great example. New Orleans, right? Should New Orleans be a populated area? The main part of the city is 10 feet below sea level, right? If sea levels are going to rise, if there's going to be more hurricanes, right? Should we have millions of people, right, that live below the sea level, like 10 feet below the sea level in that city, right?
The government obviously thinks so, because last time there was a natural disaster, they gave tax incentives for people to come in and fix it back up. Mm-hmm. Like, they literally said, hey, real estate investors, come help us out with this.
If that happens like 5 more times, are they going to say, well...
If people want to live there, they should be able to live wherever they want. Like, right?
They should, but...
I don't think anybody should be telling them where to live. I don't know. Well, I mean, you've got the history and the family and stuff.
No, I get it. But but even if you're like libertarian mindset or whatever, people can do what they want to do, there still has to be companies to back that. To say, like, okay, yeah, you want to live in New Orleans? Great. Here's your insurance policy. Could be $20,000 a year to live in New Orleans, because we're just going to bankroll and get the money up to the point where when a hurricane does come through New Orleans, because it's going to, right? Then it'll get covered. So that's one option. Or the other option is either as a collective society we agree that it just doesn't make sense to populate these areas anymore, or the government steps in and says that, or we're overthinking it.
Yeah, I mean, the issue with you live where you want to live is I heard with this storm we just got in Florida that the federal government basically said anybody that's underinsured, the federal government's going to pay up to like $38,000 for repairs and renovations.
They did that on Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah,
they did that on.
And it's not. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of taxes. I like when my taxes are spent well. But there are a lot of people who argue, I don't live in an area with hurricanes. Why should my taxes be
the
going?
Government still subsidizes flood insurance at this
I can
point,
tell
right?
Mauricio totally agrees with you on paying taxes. I can just tell by his facial expression.
Well, I live in California, so obviously I don't care about taxes, right? But no, I mean, I think the challenge is that you always have these unintended consequences. So you have the government that's actually coming in and then sort of subsidize, because what's going to happen is the price is too high. So what happens? People won't get it. Yeah. It's like, screw it. I can't afford it. I want to live here. And so then they get bailed out because then something happens. And so you're just fostering that behavior of people sticking around where ordinarily they wouldn't, because they'd be like, it's too expensive. I can't afford the insurance. And if I don't get insurance, I'm going to get wiped out completely. So I should move somewhere else. But when the government comes in and just keeps subsidizing, and it just encourages and that's what the government does. It wants to encourage behavior. And they want to, keep the constituents, and they want to keep.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody has risks. I mean, you live in California, you've got earthquakes. You live in the Midwest, you've got tornadoes. You live in Texas, you've got a power grid going out. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got risks everywhere. Humidity. Yeah, you have humidity.
There's risks of living everywhere. I mean, the Southwest is running out of water. I mean, there are risks to every different place. So maybe like you just gotta live somewhere.
Well, and
right?
it's okay for us to talk about that because we have the convenience of we can move. But what about the people who they've lived there their whole life, and you hear the stories about people living in flood zones and their house has been decimated 6 times, and
Yeah.
and the flood insurance and the government steps in and rebuilds it. But what are they going to do? They're not going to be able to sell that house. They're stuck
Yeah.
there, and so there has to be some balance between.
But
them.
that's what I'm saying. Do we get to a point where the government either just can't subsidize it anymore? The government just it just starts to have to say, well, listen, we just are not going to throw money into this again, or maybe the government keeps doing it in perpetuity, but at some point there's got to be an enough's enough moment. Or do we just keep doing it and keep allowing people to move back into these flood areas and keep throwing money at it every time it happens, and it'll happen?
I mean, that kind of seems like the way it works, right? The problem with our political system now is that no one wants to be the bad guy because we're on a 4-year cycle, and same thing with Social Security, same thing. We have problems in all of these systems, but no one wants to come in and say, hey, we got to pay more taxes, we got to do all these things to fix these systems. They kind of just push them off.
You
We
Canadians
just
do.
we just print money. We don't need to raise taxes anymore. We just print it.
Well, inflation too. The hidden tax.
Well, to throw out David Green's presentation today, being here at PPCon, and I know I've heard Jay talk about this as well. The quantitative easing has been happening since 2010. I know you know that, but I did not know that since you put that presentation out there. So you can't blame one party for QE or for government printing money. It has been a government policy to print money for a very long time.
Temporary.
Yeah.
It started as a temporary policy.
Sure.
By the way, it was supposed to be just for emergency.
Just for a minute.
We're just going to do it, and now it's kind of become the de facto. We're in trouble. This is what we do.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is, and I've gone back and forth through my life, being a Republican, being a Democrat, being an independent, and the thing I've come to realize is both parties are exactly the same. I mean, you can find little differences. One party prefers to give lots of free money to big companies. Other party prefers to give lots of free money to small companies.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, both sides are in it for themselves, and both sides are like not. They don't care about our best interests. And so, I mean, both sides are going to print too much money and kick the can down the road thinking, okay, it's the problem for whoever gets elected next.
So when are you going to run?
I ran in, 2016. My name, I registered with the FEC to get on the national ballot. Didn't collect enough signatures.
How many do you need?
I got 2. I don't know how many you needed. So literally, I got my wife to sign, and I signed. I don't even know if mine was legal. But if you go back to 2016 and you look,
Where were you living?
What were you running
I
for?
was living in Maryland for president.
Stop.
I
You put your hat in to run for
I
president.
literally, you can go.
I think. Who can get more than 2? Come on, 2 votes. I could
Dude,
probably
you
get
didn't-
like.
I just thought
in
it
the
was.
next 30 seconds, you could probably get
I could
3.
probably get
I
3
just
of those
thought it was
right.
cool. I just thought it was cool to
People can
see
sign
my
online
name.
right now. I could put it on social media and get a lot more signatures than 2. I know you could have too, right?
I could have. I couldn't have gotten enough to actually make a difference.
No,
but
no.
I thought it was cool to see my name up on the
Well,
FEC
do you
website.
see yourself getting into politics at some point in your life?
So before I moved from Maryland to Florida, I was prepared to run for the Maryland State House of Representatives.
Nice.
In my district, and it boiled down to there was a woman who was a senator in my state who was trying to decide if she was going to run for this particular position.
Barbara Mikulski?
Nope, I don't even remember her name, but she decided to run. So I
Miley
decided
Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus. I could have beaten Miley Cyrus, I think.
I don't think you could.
No, that's a good point. I probably couldn't have. No, and she decided to run, so I decided not to run. But she actually, I likely could have beaten the incumbent in that race had she not run. I'd still be living in Maryland, and my wife would kill me, so it probably wasn't worth it. But yeah, I was like this close to running for the House of Representatives at the state level.
Well, when DeSantis becomes president, you can run for the governor of Florida. There you go. Right?
Or you could
So.
just be VP. Then
Yeah,
you can
it'd
go.
be his VP.
I don't think DeSantis wants me as his VP.
No, I don't think you two agree. I don't think you guys are aligned very well. I've talked to you offline. I don't think you guys are aligned on a lot. So.
Yeah.
He's got other picks. So now what?
Well,
Well, what is the Canadian think?
well,
Now what? What's next?
you guys are.
Pause that pause in the
you
podcast.
guys
and I'm like,
you're
okay.
done talking about insurance and
We went from insurance to Jay running for president to should America live in certain places. It's a highlight of the show so far.
We're going to get to the Eurodollar system.
I'll make you a deal. Whoever's listening to this, hit the like and the subscribe button. Isn't that what I'm supposed to say? I need to ask
That's
my
a
kids,
video,
but
dude.
I think it's smash the likes button, smash the subscribe button.
Is this
Is
going
that
on,
what,
you-
is that what
this on
your
YouTube?
kids do that too? Eh? My kids just all day.
If
watch
I can get
these videos.
100,000 likes on this video, I'm running in the next election.
Oh, hang on
wait,
now.
wait. Say that one
Hang
more time.
on,
Wait.
100,000
100,000
likes.
100,000 likes on this video. Jay Scott will run for what now? For president?
I will run for president
Jay Scott will run for president
in
If we get
2024.
in 2024.
Yep.
Now you have incentive to
Everyone
not
gets
have
a
this be
puppy.
popular.
That's his campaign.
Of
that's
course,
his
of course.
campaign
Every
promise.
person that hits the like button's also going to have to sign my little forms, giving me the
You
number
might
of
get more than
signatures I
two.
need.
You
I might get more than
this
two.
time.
Well,
So we got that solved.
but
So
to,
Jay's
br-
running
to
for
br- to
president.
bring it back to the original discussion, though, should we be, as real estate investors, should we be avoiding these areas?
That's a legit question. That's,
Like,
that's,
should we be avoiding?
that's the first
so,
good question you've asked all day.
So like, I don't think I've asked any questions, but other than Jay, why he was a hurricane denier.
You just kind of wound us up and let us go, man.
Like, should we be avoiding Florida? Should we be avoiding Houston? Should we be avoiding anywhere where there's wildfires in California?
Yeah.
You know, the
We
droughts.
do.
Should we be avoiding those things? Are we just going to assume that the government's going to take care of us, insurance is going to be fine, and everything's going to be okay?
Because I'll just follow up. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about that, like Tampa Orlando corridor. I mean, that's supposedly the next. Our good friend Kathy Fetke talks about that area all the time. I've been looking at it; it's awesome. But great question, Kyle. Should we eliminate the Tampa Orlando corridor or any other place because of the hurricanes?
The
Yeah.
hurricane already eliminated that corridor. So you've now
We
got
shouldn't be laughing
you've
at
now
that.
got all vacant land there now, right?
Well, but then there's if you believe that's a good area, that would be a perfect opportunity to go in and scoop something up and do what you want with it.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, we've made that decision at Bar Down. I mean, Kyle, we're partners, and you do a lot of our market identification work, and I think we've made that decision as a company that we're staying out of those areas that have that catastrophic risk. Again, we're in Houston. We do a lot in Houston. We're not scared of a building getting hit and having to rebuild a building or do renovation or clean up water. But the catastrophic risk, the losing 100% of your investment and nothing you can do about it, even if it's a tiny, tiny chance, I mean, that's just not something we want to our investors to have that
But
risk.
even the insurance thing, like they just last year made changes with the FEMA flood maps.
Did your
and
voice just
they-
crack? Are you
Sorry, I've been drinking for 3 days straight. I've been losing. I'm surprised I can even talk at this point. But like, should we be concerned that flood insurance is can absolutely change and even go away and be unaffordable?
Interesting story about a mutual friend of all of ours, Andrew Cushman, right? Had a property in, I want to say it's Pensacola. That's right. Yeah. That got 90% of the property got absolutely destroyed by a hurricane that came up through the Gulf Coast and just hooked right in, kind of like the hurricane we just had, but it hooked a little bit further north and went directly over top of his property. Lost 90% of the property, and through an insurance claim. Now he's reinsured again, but through his insurance claim, pretty much got a brand new apartment building. Got like on a $6 million apartment building, had an $8 million settlement to come in and rebuild the apartment building. So as long as you do, I think the risk to us is that insurance goes away altogether. You just cannot get insured.
Or becomes unaffordable. Like it's basically the same
it
thing.
becomes unaffordable, but a rising tide raises all boats, right? So the apartment building down the street from the building that I own in wherever, in for him, Pensacola, or for you guys in Houston or in Tampa, right? The guy down the road from me, his insurance, it just went way up too. And so unless we believe that insurance will become so cost prohibitive that no matter what, like it becomes, $5,000 a door per year, I don't know, that you just can't afford it and rents aren't going to support it, right? Then maybe that outprices the market. But the other option is that the government decides to not throw money in and back it up. But I'm trying to think about the worst case scenario that insurance just isn't going to cover, and that I can't pass along that expense to those that choose to live in those communities.
I'm thinking of two things on that. Number one is
give me.
So you guys raise capital, right? So you guys are syndicators, you buy buildings from investors. Yeah. So the first thing is going to be, just like interest rates going up right now, that's just an additional expense that you're dealing with. Some syndicators are going to be in a better position to handle that, right? So if suddenly your insurance goes up, triples the next year, some people like you guys will be fine because you guys are conservative and all that stuff. Other people who are like razor thin margins, they get a 10% increase in cost and they're underwater. They can't pay their mortgage. Mm-hmm. So that's one issue you've got to deal with. And then on my end, I'm always thinking of risk disclosures and stuff. So just make sure that the worst case scenario is there is that risk, and it's not disclosed to your investors, and then you end
why
up
you gotta get a
losing it.
lawyer.
That's why you got to get a lawyer.
Yeah.
So if you
Well,
know
for
if
the
you know any, let me
PPMs there
know.
to
If you know
scare
any,
the
let me
pants
know.
off here.
Well,
Yeah, right.
Well, here I guess that leads to a big question. I mean, are we going to see more funds and some more larger investment vehicles where people aren't doing single asset syndications and people are diversifying? So if I want to buy something in Tampa, Florida, well, I'm also buying something in Montana and something else in
San Diego.
Michigan and San
Yeah,
Diego.
we're San Diego.
And so if I do have some catastrophic event where I take a big loss, basically the entire investment isn't going to go to zero. It's going to hit the investment, but we're diversified, and so maybe that's the answer. Maybe we're going to see a lot more diversified funds over the next few
That's
years.
the
It's a good point. Good
pro-
strategy. Yeah.
That's a big selling point of funds is that you don't just invest in one project. You're invested in 5, 10,
In a
20,
portfolio. Yeah.
Yeah, just make sure they're not all in the same area with basically floods, I guess.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah.
I'm invested in a fund that owns like 6,000 units in Orlando and north of Orlando, and so yeah, it's nice that there's some diversification there, but there's not diversification against that one huge risk, which is a hurricane that or several hurricanes that make the area uninsurable.
Is that what? Okay, let's go back to that because we keep using that word, right? Uninsurable, right? Is that realistic?
Well, yeah,
You know?
because the idea is too, like, if we're talking about large commercial properties,
Yeah.
apartment buildings and stuff,
Mhm.
there's I don't know what the percentage is, but there's got to be a decent percentage of apartments and residential units and in flood zones, and the government has an interest in providing housing for
Mhm.
the communities.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way they would let it get to the point where
Yeah.
these things become uninsurable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Then you'd have millions of people without places to live.
but look at the FEMA rates. What they can go up 17% a year legally. I mean,
Well, if you we talked about New Orleans before, like with the new FEMA rates, like some of them are going up 5x. And,
so at some
and you're allowed to they cap your renewal policy. So like if you have a current policy, they cap your raise. I think that's where you get the 17%. Every year the max it can raise is 17%. But that's 17%, then 17%, then 17%. Like if the average person just can't afford that.
yeah, I mean
That's
you
not in
could
their
say,
budget.
Yeah, rents will go up to support that, but the problem
But
is
we still don't know still don't know the downside of this. That literally just happened last year. So like we're gonna have a renewal, and then we're still 2 steps from having a huge issue with it.
Yeah, I'm going to make a bet with you, Matt.
Please
I'm
do.
going to bet in the next 5 years we're going to see some area of the country that is literally uninsurable.
Is it by a government decree or an insurance? But all
Nope.
insurance companies just
Just-
step out and say, "Listen, we're just not going to do this
That one.
anymore."
That one.
It's either that or it's the premium is so high that nobody will pay it, and
That's
so
the-
because there's no demand for your product, they're going to stop offering it.
Because to your point, I can't pass it through my tenants anymore, or my tenants rent that my tenant can afford to pay $1,000 a month, and I need to charge $2,500 to just to cover my insurance cost basis, right? So that is actually a good point. Is that insurance premiums go up to the point where just a market costs itself
But
out.
what
you know?
about the average person though? We're speaking as investors. But what
Yes.
about the average person who just owns their home? All of a sudden, like they need insurance to get a mortgage. They
Mhm.
need a mortgage to own a home. Like that just means that the average person just can't own a home anymore in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
going back to we got to assume that the government's going to step in at some point. Along
I
there.
think the government will likely step in and find a way to bridge the gap on the homeowner side. I think that just, again, call me crazy, but I think there's this whole, landlord's the big bad boogeyman kind of thing, that on the commercial side that we're going to be asked to absorb it or pass it down. But on the residential homeownership side, there's going to be some sort of a program, I think, to
I mean,
absorb it.
California tries this stuff all the time, right?
So wait, I want to know if he's taking the bet or not. 5 years, there's going to be some part of the U.S. where some asset class in real estate is completely uninsurable.
I probably would agree with you. I'd take a
I would.
bet. Would you take it? Would you say yes?
I say yes, there will be an area.
Okay, how about you bet on which
That's a
Are
short
we
time
talking
frame,
Southwest or
10
Southeast?
maybe.
Southwest.
I think it could be sooner. I really think it could
So
be 5 years.
do you? Well, I'll give you the further on the bet. Right? Will it be because further expansion of fire, or will it be because of hurricanes? Which one?
I don't know. It could be earthquakes. It could be hurricanes. It could
Mm.
be. I think there's going to be. I think there's a lot less appetite for insurance and reinsurance than we've seen at any time
Yeah.
in the last couple decades. And I maybe I'm jaded because I live in Florida, but I'm seeing insurance companies just leave the state. I'm seeing insurance companies who are saying we're not going to insure a house with a roof. You buy a house with a roof that's less than 15 years old, we're not going to insure the house anymore.
Can the government step in legally any way here and like forbid them from doing that?
I think, well, obviously they can provide their own insurance.
No, they can subsidize it.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
they can come in and do an insurance credit, like maybe on your tax return or something like that. Like when you file your taxes at the end of the year, if you are a homeowner, just like you can you can write off the interest on your home, right? And you say, well, okay, I pay $4,000 a year for my single family home in insurance. Well, okay, we're going to give you a tax credit for $2,000. So I bet the easiest way for them to do it is to come in with a tax credit on insurance in certain areas, in areas of distress or whatever it may be. Maybe that's what they do it. I think the government's going to keep throwing money at it for as long as they can because they get votes. Because whoever's in the office or whatever is going to say, well, I can, seriously pick up like the votes from Tampa, Sarasota, whatever, if I throw some money at those areas, or New Orleans or whatever it may be. And a lot of these areas are dense areas where there's a lot of votes. There's a lot of people, right? So I think it comes back to votes, and it's unfortunate that that's what governs things. And I'm curious what you think of that.
I was gonna. Is it okay
Yeah.
if I pivot?
Please pivot.
As you said, a bet 5 years from now. This will be 5 years from now. You are tokenizing your syndications
Oh, no doubt.
because you had somebody. You had a great podcast, which is
The Passive Investing Show.
you had a crypto guy on there. And he was talking about the
Crypto
tokenization.
attorney. He was an
He was
attorney.
a crypto attorney. He was talking about tokenizing stuff. You were
You
pretty pumped
can never
about it.
trust these attorneys, though.
Yeah, no, the attorneys. But do you think that my call is within 5 to 7 years, the majority of syndications will be tokenized? Do you agree or disagree?
100% agree.
Is that to avoid the SEC's rule about there being a dollar transfer?
You obviously
No.
didn't listen to Mauricio's.
You obviously not
webinar
hear
the
what-
other
I
day.
did
Come
not.
on.
No, I heard that. I heard your
You
point.
did not listen to the Real Estate Syndicator Live every Tuesday at 4:30.
Because he
Plug,
talked just
plug,
to that
plug.
basically with tokenization, the SEC treats it
There's
the exact
no,
same way.
yeah, that's the biggest bunch of BS that there's, at least when it comes to like, the security side of it, that if you raise money, again, it doesn't matter what the structure is. So when you tokenize a syndication, it's a security, right? So it's the
Because
same
I've
rules.
heard there's
Same
been people
rules.
with the NFT. There's even an
Yeah,
NFT
NFTs,
conference.
everything will be
There's
NFT,
a
but
conference
that's
on
different.
NFT for real estate,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you guys, it's still a security, right? You're not
Absolutely,
securing
it's
anything.
so when you're raising money, whether it's an NFT or a security token or digital, because a token is just a digital representation of the
It's
LLC
still a
shares
dollar,
or whatever.
right?
But I've been getting some pushback from that. But 5 to 7 years from now, I'm convinced. I'm already getting a lot of
Why?
calls.
Tell me why.
Liquidity.
I'm laying it over here. Why?
So right now, you raise capital.
Yes.
Your investors invest in your project.
Yes.
Great. How long is your typical hold period for
5 to 7 years.
Okay. What if I want out in 2 years?
You got to sell. You're speaking my language because I'm thinking about retooling my company to answer this question. But I'll play the game. Currently, you have to sell to another investor, and
where are you
there's
gonna
a
find-
whole game to do that.
Can you imagine? I mean, that's a whole nightmare. Like even though
Which
theoretically,
needs the approval of the syndicator, which
Yeah.
needs all
Yeah,
Right.
and the other investors have to know about it, and they can put it on the street.
Right.
They technically
And
they could put it on the street, but as a syndicator, I get asked regularly,
Right.
"What if I want to sell in 2 years?"
and that's what this is going to solve. Is that because it's all of your syndication, your LLC, the LPs are going to have your units in your LLC, right?
Yeah.
Those are all going to be digital tokens that'll be on blockchain. So everyone's going to be able to verify. Everything's going to be on that token, like all your ownership, your operating agreement, your rent rolls, like all the information is going to be verifiable on blockchain.
Yeah.
So when I want to buy your syndication, so right now theoretically I could.
Yeah.
Right, I could say, "Hey, you're an investor. You own 5% of the company. I want to buy half of it." And here's
Yeah.
But I mean, I gotta do all my due diligence. I gotta figure all the are you real? Are these fake documents? Are they not fake documents?
Yeah.
Well, and a syndicator, we have to vet that person too,
And you
accredited.
gotta do that thing.
versus,
But we're gonna be in a world, and it's not there now. Although people are already thinking it's within a year because people are tokenizing today when there isn't a secondary market today, but they're betting that a year from now it will be. But the idea is that your passive investor can then just go on some website that's going to be some exchange that's going to be on there. Like not a stock market, but they're going to on exchange and be able to sell half of their investment or a third or all of it or whatever, and there's going to be some liquidity. That's the main. There's a bunch of other ones, but that's the main one.
Why does that have to be? Why does a token have to be involved in that exchange?
Because it doesn't have to be involved.
Okay.
Here's the thing. There's nothing that tokenization will allow you to do that can't already be done
with $1.
With all the tools we have today. The thing is, it's going to make it. Well, you're going to disagree, but let me start down this path, and you can disagree. But it's going to make things a lot easier. So number one, if I want to sell something to Mauricio, at some point he's going to have to sign some documents saying he's got it, and at some point I'm going to have to give him some money, or he's going to have to give me some money, saying he's bought it. How do we deal with that today? It's called escrow, and
it needs approvals. And
I own 5% of the White House. There's an entity called.
I own 96%. Wait a second. Something's not right here.
There's a syndication a couple years ago. It was 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue LLC, and I bought 5. I got the operating agreement. If we had a thing up here, I'd show you the show. I've got my tax returns that show that I own 5%. I mean, I've got all the documentation.
Kind of like I own an acre on the moon too, right?
So I will quit claim you the other 95% if you want.
Right. So that's the issue, right? So it's like, how do you actually prove that I own 5%? I can show you operating agreements, tax returns. I mean, those are very easily forged, but on blockchain, they're not able to be forged. They're immutable. You can't change them. So once you confirm that they're on blockchain and all that information I'm saying is there, you have confidence that it's there. So I don't have to go through that time and expense and that whole escrow process of third parties to actually verify that I own 5%, which obviously I don't. Obviously I don't.
Yeah.
That's the example.
So one of the main arguments against, the tokenization taking off so quickly is it's going to get looped into the whole blockchain NFT things, which most people think right now regulation is going to come down hard. They're going to start. They're going to regulate the crap out of all this stuff. They're going to make all these.
So it's already regulated other crap. I mean, that's what we do now. It's still.
But what's going to get regulated? Like just crypto or the Bitcoin is going to become regulated and become not worth as much because it's more transparent now. Is that what you mean by things getting regulated?
Just because so everything was great with crypto and all of these. Like everything was great with no one really worried about regulation with the crypto and everything when everyone was making money. But then all of a sudden the crypto goes from 60,000 down to 20,000, all of these funds that were
but again,
leveraged.
we're not talking crypto, Kyle.
I know, but what I'm saying is that blockchain, tokenization, crypto, we're dealing with politicians who they're not necessarily going to see the difference between these different things. The average person doesn't see the difference. And so many people are calling for heavy government regulation on all of these crypto related things,
right? But
which means that tokenization is going to get lumped into that. So if the government comes in and starts highly, changing all the rules around these things, doing all that stuff, is that going to be, detract from the appeal of tokenization?
I disagree with you, and I'm going to let Mauricio argue for me.
I'm not.
Well done.
It's not that I'm arguing. It's just that this is the one area where the SEC is like, this is heavily regulated. Like there's no ambiguity. Like the SEC doesn't think that we need to make rules. Like now. The rules are from 1933, right? Securities Act of 1933, but it's the same thing. We know about registering an exemption like 506B, 506C. It's the same stuff on the tokenization side. So the SEC is very clear that when it comes to security tokens, syndications, raising capital, I always say securities, whenever you're raising money where the returns are generated by your efforts, this is the same truth. Just because you tokenize it, just because you have a digital representation of that, doesn't change that.
We're not dodging the SEC with this.
We're not. The SEC's already said it's fully regulated. The SEC is saying we don't need to regulate this anymore because it's already fully regulated.
So something like right now, as a syndicator, whenever someone invests in one of our syndications, the onus is on us to verify that if it's a 506C, we have to verify that these people are accredited, and we have to, if it's a 506B, we have to verify, so once we get into these token things, who's the onus on of verifying these things if they're just going to pass these things around?
I'll let Mauricio correct me if I'm wrong, but you're thinking from the securities law side of things. Securities law doesn't change. What the tokenization does is it's a representation of contract law. And basically, it's a way of
right.
Ownership.
But if I sell my token, one token to my syndication in a 506C, And so that person then has that token, and the whole thing with the token is they can pass it to whoever they want.
They're conveying ownership.
They're conveying ownership, but then it's on me that I'm supposed to have verified that all of my investors are accredited investors. But now this person's just passing this thing around.
I just had the realization. What if that person sells it to someone that's not accredited?
They can't because there's when you create the token,
right?
Along with the token, it's just code, but it's called what we call a smart contract. Right, so a smart contract is just simply an if-then. If this happens, then this will happen. It's automatic written in there. So one of the restrictions, for example, on your 506C was like the only way I can transfer this from me to you, Matt, is if you are verifiably an accredited investor. And that also, by the way, is a token. That's also going to be a technically it's going to be an NFT. It's not going to be called an NFT,
but who's verifying that, though?
It's going to be a third. You're going to have to go through. Here's a great example. Anybody do TSA pre-check?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you have to do in order to get that pre-SA, that little check mark?
You filled out some stuff and you went and got an interview.
You had to go somewhere, get your fingerprint. You went to a third party, get all that freaking verification,
Yep.
and then you got like the stamp of approval. You're going to do the exact same thing, but instead of getting that stamp of approval, or in addition to getting that stamp of approval, it's going to be
so you're saying
it's a QR
the
code.
Exchange, right? The exchange is going to say, okay, in order to be in our exchange and buy these tokens, you have to be verified.
You're
through,
going to be
verify
verified.
investor.
Are you
You have to go
accredited?
for-
Yes. Here's my token. It's on blockchain. It's completely
When you go to
verifiable.
buy it,
There's already
there's going to be a
verification
bit.
services.
There's going to be a bit in your profile that says accredited, not accredited.
What
And
profile, though? That's what I'm saying.
It's going to be on. It's going to be. Think of it as a piece of information that's on It's on this blockchain, so that you know that it's there.
you're going to have an account.
So every single person is going to have an accredited,
100%.
accredited
100%.
You're going to have.
status.
You're going to have an account.
Bit.
You're going to have
Whether
an
you have it or
online
not.
profile.
Yeah,
Your
well, each-
marriage certificate is going to be an NFT. Your
Ooh.
car registration is going to be an NFT.
So are we going to wait till we get to that point in order for tokenization of
No,
real
because you
estate?
can do it right now. So what
That's the
happens
easy
right now?
part.
What we're doing is we're still using a lot of third parties. The whole point of this tokenization is to kind of get rid of it all, but we're still having some third parties. So, for example, the accreditation. There are companies that will verify your accreditation status, and in exchange for that, will provide you with a token, an NFT, because an NFT is just a token that's unique, which in this case it would be unique. So that information is on blockchain that says Kyle Wilson is an accredited investor. And so when I transfer that token to you, Kyle, the smart contract is going to say, if Kyle Wilson has this token that says he's an accredited investor, then you can do the transfer. If you don't have that check mark that's verifiably on blockchain, the transfer cannot happen because the code will prohibit you from transferring that token to you.
And also say if you haven't gotten reaccredited in the last 3 months, well, you can't.
Well, it's 5 years now. It's
I
5
was just
years
going to say
now.
they just changed that, right?
It's
5 years
it's
now.
multiple years
5
now.
years.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the same
5 years,
operator.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's guys. We're using a lot of fancy language for stuff that already exists, right? Like if somebody invests in one of our deals, them having to get accredited already happens. There are third party verification services online that happen already, right? So all this, it sounds like this is stuff that's already happening.
Well, that's what I was saying
Yeah.
before. Like nothing, and I know Mauricio disagrees, and I agree with him that this is going to make things a lot safer. It's gonna.
It sounds like it makes it more secure, right? What I've heard about blockchain
but the
is
biggest
that
thing-
it makes it secure.
It
right?
makes it secure, but the biggest
Not
thing
hackable.
is efficiency.
Yes.
It allows me to right now. I could pick up my phone in a perfect world, and Kyle could say, "I'll give you $25K for your share of X," and in 3 seconds, I can. It's
Well, it takes away
Venmo.
the number one downside to investing, in my opinion, investing in a syndication is uncertainty of liquidity, right? Like you give us some money and we're going to say, hey, we plan on selling this in 5 years. But we don't know. Like, we don't know if COVID's going to hit at year 5. We don't know if at year 3, all of a sudden, it's going to be the best time to sell ever. Like, we don't know when we're going to give you that money back. So that's the number one downside. So tokenization, to me.
So right now, the technology exists. The problem is if you put together an exchange where I could sell my LP units, which I could, there's no way you're going to hit buy 50K on the spot because you don't know if he owns the money. He owns the shares. You don't know what the rent rolls are. He telling me what the income and expenses are.
But on a secondary market, it does work. Like this is actually something that's interesting. And to be straight, like, glad we're talking about this. Maybe this is just the bourbon talking, but we've been thinking about completely flipping our equity model on its head and doing a forever hold model. So when I buy an apartment building, why do I need to show a 5-year hold on the property to where it's illiquid? I buy it, I cash flow it, I do what I got to do, and then I sell it in 5 years, right? Why? What if I were able to hold it forever or design a
Most
model?
people would love to.
Yeah, I'm sure we would, right? But you've got investors want to see that rate of it. They want to see that exit point, right? So
Here's the thing:
Go ahead.
we have a historical and technological analogy to this. 100 years ago, you could buy stock. And you didn't go online to your stockbroker and place an order and they told you owned the stock. No, you went and you physically paid and you got a stock certificate that showed your ownership. And we've moved past that point. We've used technology to get past the proof of ownership via a stock certificate. Now we have this proof of ownership via an online contract signature and a third-party verification, all that. And tokenization is going to allow us to move past that to the next level where we're proving ownership.
So is tokenization?
Let me give you another great example. Why in the world? This is the perfect one with real estate, and this one's gonna take a little bit of time. But why in the world do you need title insurance?
Oh, that's such antiquated.
Why
stuff.
do you
I mean,
freaking need it?
Because
If somebody did the original survey, they figured out, okay, Kyle owns this property. Here are the meets and bounds. So we've defined what he actually owns.
It's just the inefficiencies in the system.
And
That's
so
the only reason.
Once the tokenization, and the problem with the tokenization on this is it's all county by county. There's I don't know how many counties are in the U.S. But once that all gets consolidated, if you're out there and you're a title company or you're in that world, you're going to be completely obsolete because why in the world would you do the survey once and then have to do it again once you sold it?
Yeah,
That
but
makes no sense.
Have you? I've had a title claim. I've had a Deutsche Bank came to me on a property I bought in Trenton, New Jersey. Yeah, years and years ago. This happened a while ago, but years and years ago, it was a property they had foreclosed on, right? So it got foreclosed on, got filed properly through the sheriff's sale and everything like that. We bought it from a wholesaler who bought it off a sheriff's sale, yada, yada, yada. So apparently the transfer deed didn't get filed properly, so they thought they still had a lien on the asset for one reason or another. So they showed up and said, hey, you guys own a property that we have a lien on, and that was supposed to have gotten cleared during the sheriff's sale. So we actually pushed that over to the title. Now that happened one time in my 17 years of business, right? So title insurance does kick in, but it's one of those weird things that's a fluke. So I get why not title insurance, but I'm sure in your attorney world you've seen title claims come up, right? Like claims on ownership.
But
right?
there shouldn't be though, because once somebody does the ownership confirmation and the loan confirmation
and the transfer,
survey confirmation,
well,
you do it once. Why do you need and you have, because again, blockchain, I would throw in the term around. Blockchain is like I use this analogy all the time, and the purists will get mad at me, but it's just an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
It's an Excel spreadsheet that you just know without a shadow of doubt is accurate. And there's reasons why.
Well,
and so if you have a spreadsheet that you prepared and you said this is the survey. Now, yes, it's possible.
But who's going to fill out
surveyor-
all that stuff? I guess is the thing is someone has to go in and input all of that past data into there so that it's searchable and how is that ever going to happen? Right now, I don't know if you've ever done a title search recently, but going and doing a title search is like you have to go through like decades and years and doing all this stuff, and it's on you to do it.
I lived in Belize, like back in Belize, you do a title search. You literally go and it's like index cards, and you're flipping through it. It's a drawer that pulls out.
So someone would have to update that onto the blockchain in order for all of this to work.
No, I think it's just one time though. It's like the next time you do the survey, let's make sure that's on blockchain.
To upload it.
And maybe somebody, there's going to be a title insurance company who's basically saying, you can trust that I've done the work here. Then they put it on the blockchain, and maybe they're willing to over-insure in the future for any additional sales for a small fee. But anything new that's coming in, like anything that's being built today, that's going on the blockchain. It's never going to need title insurance. But certainly maybe somebody made a mistake 30 years ago. There are going to be ways around that.
But there's one organization, Mauricio, who you are giving way too much credit to, and that is the freaking government, dude. They make mistakes all the time. The issue that I had was
Mauricio loves the government.
He's
the biggest supporter.
He's the government, right?
Take my tax money. I trust you. Do whatever
But
you
my
want. You'll
point
never
was,
do wrong.
On the deal that I had, right, that Deutsche Bank coming to me saying like, hey, we still own that property. No, this is a freaking government didn't process the sheriff's sale properly, right?
But the government's out of this whole process, so that would be on blockchain. Right, originally, and so when somebody says no, this is not done properly, let's just check blockchain. Let's check the spreadsheet. Nope, that's wrong. Okay, good.
That means
so we got to wrap this up a little bit. But would you? So let's play a quick game of this.
What's your favorite wine?
Would you rather
Ooh.
Would you
Rather?
Bottle of my bourbon. I've had all of my bourbon now. So
Wait,
would you
take a
rather?
drink.
First of all, let me make another critique of the podcast. That the guests get a drink and then there's no refills.
That is true. We should have grabbed two. On the
Next
way
time,
out.
if I have
Okay,
a
so-
we
so-
should have grabbed two.
Kyle,
And I
there should be
understand
a-
you guys are on a tight budget.
There should be a
I get
nice-
it. I get it.
I know.
But
These guys are just
You
squeaking
guys-
by over
yeah,
here.
you guys
Right,
were our
yeah, yeah.
trial guests for the guests we actually
We never. We
care about.
don't. We don't know.
I
if
want
this
a
whole podcast
I
is
want
going
a survey so I can fill
Okay,
out
I'll
my
put you-
thoughts
Yeah, I know,
on
right.
ways to improve.
Episode 2 is the guest we really like. So,
Right.
So we're gonna do that.
I want a bottle of something
So-
nice
so,
in the
but
middle of
would
the
you-
table so we
a
can
bottle,
really get real.
Would you rather? Would you rather?
A bottle of
Quick
wine,
finish
a
this
bottle
up.
of bourbon.
Get
Sorry.
real.
Would you rather take a 14% return on a normal syndication or a 10% return, but you get to do it through a token and you can have liquidity event at any time you want?
I would take 10
You take 10?
all day long. Liquidity is way more undervalued because there is a velocity of money because something may show up. But if I can collapse it in days, if I get my money back within say 72 hours, right? There's always going to be an opportunity that I can see that's unfair advantage that I can jump in and do really, really quickly. So if I can make 10 on my money, it's like a savings account, right?
So Jay, what would you say?
So keep in mind, liquidity doesn't tokenization doesn't equal liquidity. Tokenization equals efficiency. Having the market exist, having lots of
Okay,
people.
well, so I'm sorry. I'm
So let's-
extrapolating to years in
Okay.
advance when we do have that liquidity.
Can you
option.
just answer the man's question?
Okay,
You
so
guys always got to
because he's-
analyze.
So it's
You're
basically
such a scientist.
liquidity for 10%, or you're locked into the syndication, but you're getting 14.
14.
Do you keep thinking when you sleep? Does
Projected.
your brain
Projected.
ever stop?
I'm always
Oh,
playing
this
devil's
brain of
advocate.
yours. Good
Always
Lord.
playing devil's advocate.
All right.
4%'s big. 12 is
That's not what I asked.
12's
Just
a no.
answer the
He didn't want to
question.
haggle with
Okay,
me.
so I'm working through it.
I'm
I'm
not
working-
negotiating
He doesn't want to
here.
counter offer.
12's a no-brainer. 11 is probably. 10 is that's a tough. See, it's a good. Would you?
You don't
rather.
like my
You're
argument.
like,
That's
Tom?
why I'm doing
That
it.
he's
You don't
my
like being
kid.
able to.
I mean, he has these good would you rather's. 10, 14 versus 10. I'm gonna say no, but I would do 14 versus 12, and I'd probably do 14 versus 11.
That's a long answer to a very
All right,
quick
fair
question.
enough.
There's something called an illiquidity premium. I don't know if it's that big of a thing, but
And it's
absolutely.
not 4%.
I don't know if it's 4%, but here's the beauty of it. So you mentioned other opportunities.
Yes.
I'll give you an example in my real life. So
Answer the
no,
question.
but here's what I'm going to take the 10. The
It
answer
sounds
is
like he
10%.
agrees with me. Thank you,
The
Kyle.
answer is 10% because, for example, we're looking to buy a new place, a new home, right? So let's say I've got $100,000. And I really want to give it to you, Jay, because I love your investment and it's great. But I also
Can you say that? Can you say that again on camera?
I'm sorry. I really love Jay and Kyle's investment and Matt's, by the way.
He has
but
other options. I'll
but
give you
but I got
10%
$100,000.
liquid.
But I
Right.
need it for my house, right? I might buy a house in 6 months or 3 months or a year. I want to buy a house
Right.
next year. If I had the liquidity, I can give you $100,000. You can give me the investment. I can get some 10% return, and then to your point,
Yeah.
I can then sell it next year to go use it for my down payment for my house.
Right.
Yeah,
Fair
but
enough.
you invest in stocks, and there's huge liquidity there.
So what
For
I
the
heard,
record,
Are you
I
gonna
do
give
not-
up
for the
4%?
record,
was-
I am nowhere near
I'm
stocks.
sorry, but
what
you
I
can,
heard,
you can imagine,
Kyle, is
you
that
can imagine, I
Mauricio
apologize.
agrees with Matt.
Yeah,
on
you
that
can
one.
imagine
Okay,
investing.
fair enough.
Wait, I don't think
Fair
you.
enough.
Wait,
For the record, I would do
4%.
14.
The audience.
It's a
I,
14.
I don't think the audience heard you. You
That's called a
apologize.
short answer.
You
Called a
I
answer.
apologize.
One more quick. Never have. Let's do a fun one. Or would you rather? Sorry. Would you rather never pay for food again or never pay for travel again?
Ooh.
Let's start with Jay.
I'm fat, but I love to travel.
But think about that. You could travel any way you wanted. You could be first class everywhere you go.
First class. Is there a private plane involved, or
Sure.
I'm with Mauricio. What kind of travel are we talking?
what kind of food? Are we talking Nobu or are we talking hamburgers?
Absolutely anything. Nobu, anything's on the table.
Any food is
Wait,
on the
that's not
table,
food?
or
No,
any
it's food.
travels on the table.
That's what I'm saying. Any kind of
Can
food.
eat a Nobu
any kind
every-
of-
I can eat
you
Nobu
every night.
Any food or any travel.
I'm hands
That's a good
down
one.
on this one.
I'm
man.
a foodie. Does it include wine?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, why not?
Oh yeah, I'm
Drinking,
taking
everything.
I'm taking.
Wait,
I'm
I
taking,
don't, wait. Any wine?
Any wine, anything.
I'm taking food.
Dude, how do you
I agree.
guys?
I'm
this
taking
is a
food.
No
Food?
brainer.
I'd be too drunk to travel.
Dude,
I go travel
Jay and I
10
could
times.
look if money were if we were getting it for free. Jay and I could spend $200,000 on a dinner.
For sure.
So let me give you guys an analogy, right? If I told
Did you answer though?
travel, 100%. If I told you guys that we're going to go to Machu Picchu, right, and we're going to see the whole thing, but all you get to eat is peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for realsy reals.
See,
you
see,
guys
the
would
way-
not
see,
do
no,
that.
that's not the
See,
question.
I
I
answer-
can just pay, I can pay for that. I just have to pay for that.
I
Yeah,
answer
I
travel
know,
because
but-
of this. Because food, to me, you're gonna be
I'll
able to do
figure
it as
out.
an experience, but you're gonna save a ton of money. Travel, your lifestyle's
Yeah.
gonna change. You're
Yes.
absolutely what you're
The
gonna do.
thing-
Have
things I get to
have
see.
you ever had a 1995 Chateau Margaux?
See, that's why, and I haven't,
But
and
then-
so that's why.
But you're gonna save money doing that, but you're not gonna change your life doing that. You're just gonna have it. You're not gonna say, "Oh,
Pizza Buca de Beppo.
I'm gonna run out." Okay,
Guy that
what
drinks-
should we do
this
tonight?
Is this is the guy that drinks Coors Light.
Me and Kyle are
What-
gonna go
what-
ride
I'm-
motor.
no.
We're gonna
What
go
am I
ride
gonna do
motorcycles.
tonight?
I'm
in
going
the-
to finish the drink.
I'm going to. I plan it out. I
You'd
knew
be
we had
all
an
right.
hour.
Yeah.
I'm going to run to Rome to do dinner
Yes.
tonight, and I could just do it because I don't have to pay for travel. Versus food, you're just.
I'll pay for travel
And I'll buy my own lunch and then ride motorcycles with you on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Okay, we'll do that, and then I'll buy lunch.
fly anywhere,
right?
and it's
Right.
changing your life.
These
All right,
guys
we
can
gotta
have
wrap this
lunch
up.
at
These guys
Nobu
have
every
book
day and have it in their
signings
own
and do all this
backyard,
stuff.
right? Yeah,
I
we'll-
appreciate you guys suffering through this. We had fun. We had a couple.
This was
couple
awesome.
interruptions. A couple.
Nah,
couple.
don't
fun.
worry
It was a good
about
one.
it.
It was
Great
good.
conversation.
We're gonna edit this down to 6 minutes, so it's actually decent.
Okay,
So
we're
let's
doing
see.
part 2 after our
Cities in the
after our
U.S. will
third
be
glass.
abandoned because of
And
hurricanes.
next time we'll have two. But
Bitcoin's going to take over the
Some
world.
feedback for next one. To Matt's point,
Jay's
have a
running
for
bottle,
president.
a bottle of wine, a bottle of bourbon, not this like
Yes.
glass stuff.
No.
Okay, knowing that you two were drinking wine and two of us are drinking bourbon, we should have just got a bottle. That would have made sense.
We probably should have.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys.
Takeaways are Jay's going to run for office.
Yep.
Right.
100,000 likes on this
5
video.
5 years
Yeah.
from now, Jay's president, and we're all doing tokens
Tokenization.
on,
All doing tokenization.
And me and Kyle ride
and there's a
motorcycles
part
on
of
the
the
Ho Chi Minh
U.S.
Trail.
that is uninsurable.
Yeah.
That's
There's
right.
my
Take that to
five-year
the
plan.
bank.
Those are the
Take that to the
takeaways.
bank.
My
Summarize
five-year plan.
that right
Thanks
there.
for joining us, guys.
Thanks.
That's fun.